Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving deep into what is arguably the greatest rivalry in the history of sports, Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier. This wasn't just about boxing. It was a clash of titans, a saga of friendship, betrayal, and 3 brutal wars inside the ring that forever defined the golden age of heavyweight boxing. Their story is a 3-act play, each fight more dramatic than the last, culminating in a battle so fierce it pushed both men to the very edge of human endurance. So, let's set the stage. By 1971, Muhammad Ali, the greatest, was back. Stripped of his title and exiled from boxing for 3.5 years for his refusal to be drafted into the Vietnam War. Ali was a symbol of rebellion and charisma. He was poetry in motion, a fighter whose speed and style had never been seen before in the heavyweight division. While Ali was away, smoking Joe Frazier, a relentless, powerful force of nature, had bulldozed his way to the top. Frazier, with his signature bob and weave style and a left hook that could knock down a building, was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He was a blue-collar hero from Philadelphia, the polar opposite of Ali's flamboyant persona. Interestingly, these two were once friends. Frazier had even supported Ali during his exile, loaning him money and petitioning President Nixon to reinstate his boxing license. But as the collision course for a title fight became inevitable, the friendship soured. Ali, in his typical fashion, began the psychological warfare. He painted Frazier as an Uncle Tom, an establishment figure, a sellout. He called him ignorant and ugly. These insults cut deep, transforming a professional rivalry into a bitter, personal feud. Frazier, a proud man who had fought his way out of poverty, felt betrayed. For him, this was no longer just about a title. It was about respect. And so, on March 8, 1971, Madison Square Garden hosted what was billed as the fight of the century. The world stopped to watch. The atmosphere was electric. This was more than a boxing match. It was a cultural event. Frank Sinatra was a ringside photographer, and the arena was packed with celebrities. For 14 rounds, they went to war. Ali was fast, landing his stinging jabs, but Frazier was relentless. He stalked Ali, absorbing punishment just to get inside and unleash his devastating body blows and that monstrous left hook. Frazier was a human pressure cooker, constantly moving forward, never giving Ali a moment to breathe. The pace was unbelievable. Then came the 15th and final round. Ali, exhausted and leading on some scorecards, was still fighting. But Frazier, fueled by pure will, saw his moment. He unleashed the most famous left hook in boxing history. It connected flush on Ali's jaw, sending the greatest crashing to the canvas. The image is iconic. Ali, incredibly, got back up, but the fight was decided. Joe Frazier had done the unthinkable. He had handed Muhammad Ali his first professional defeat. He had walked through the fire and emerged, still the undisputed champion. The world was stunned. Frazier had proven he was not just a champion, but an all-time great. But this was only Act 1. The rivalry was far from over. The second fight took place 3 years later in 1974. This time, it was a non-title bout, but the stakes were just as high. The winner would get a shot at the new champion, George Foreman, who had shockingly demolished Frazier to take the belt. The build-up was again filled with tension. They even got into a physical altercation on a TV show. The fight itself, however, was less dramatic than the first. Ali, having learned from his loss, employed a different strategy. He used his footwork, kept his distance, and utilized the clinch and grab tactic to smother Frazier's offense whenever he got close. It was a more strategic, less brutal affair. Ali controlled the pace and won a clear-cut unanimous decision. He had avenged his loss. The score was now even, 1 win apiece. Ali had proven he could adapt and overcome, setting the stage for the ultimate rubber match, a fight that would decide once and for all who was the better man. Ali would go on to shock the world again by knocking out George Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle, reclaiming the heavyweight title that he felt was always rightfully his. This set the stage for the final epic chapter of their trilogy. And that brings us to October 1st, 1975, the Thrilla in Manila. If the first fight was a war, this was something beyond that. Held in the sweltering heat of the Philippines, this fight is often cited as the most brutal heavyweight contest of all time. Ali's taunts had reached a new level of cruelty, and Frazier's hatred for him was at its peak. From the opening bell, it was pure savagery. Ali dominated the early rounds with his speed and accuracy. He peppered Frazier with jabs and combinations, telling him, "Joe, they told me you were washed up." Frazier's response, "They lied." Then, in the middle rounds, the tide turned. Frazier, the unstoppable force, began to land his thudding body shots and thunderous hooks. He punished Ali against the ropes, sapping his energy in the oppressive heat. Ali later said it was the closest thing to death he had ever experienced. The momentum swung back and forth. They exchanged blows with an intensity that defied belief. By the late rounds, both men were utterly spent, fighting on pure instinct and heart. Frazier's eyes were nearly swollen shut, yet he kept pressing forward. Ali was exhausted, taking tremendous punishment. Before the 5th-10th round, Frazier's legendary trainer, Eddie Futch, made a difficult decision. Seeing that Joe could barely see and was taking horrific punishment, he threw in the towel. Frazier, the ultimate warrior, protested, "I want him, boss!" But Futch saved his fighter, telling him, "It's all over! No one will ever forget what you did here today." Across the ring, a victorious Ali collapsed, completely drained. He had won the battle, but the war had taken a toll on both of them. He had finally earned Frazier's respect, but at a terrible cost. In the end, Ali won the series 2-1. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. Frazier gave Ali his first loss and pushed him to his absolute limit. Ali avenged that loss and ultimately outlasted him in a fight that nearly took everything from them both. Their 3 fights are the benchmark for heavyweight boxing, a trilogy of skill, courage, and unimaginable toughness. Muhammad Ali is the greatest, but a huge part of what made him great was the relentless, unbreakable warrior named Joe Frazier. Their names, their legacies, are forever intertwined. 2 sides of the same legendary coin. They needed each other to achieve boxing immortality. Thanks for watching, everyone! This is a story that truly transcends sports, and I hope you enjoyed this deep dive. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. Let me know in the comments what your favorite moment from the Ali-Frazier rivalry is. See you in the next one!